you are. I was hoping you'd stop by today. Oh, you feel it too, don't you? You do, right? That hush that isn't just silence. Yeah, but something waiting, right? Like, it's in the floorboards this morning, and in the kettle's breath. Even the way the birds have been singing, longer between phrases, like they're listening to something we haven't caught on to yet. You understand? Oh, good. Oh, good. I've been gathering things. I have, yes, not for anything urgent, but because sometimes when you've carried a story long enough, you can feel when it's ready to be set down. Today feels like one of those days. Come on in then. There's space by the fire, and I'll tell you what happened. The wind had changed overnight, not with drama, not with thunder or chill, but with the subtle shift of something long dormant, beginning to stir. The kind of change you feel before you see, noticed not in leaves or sky, but in how the morning air touches your skin, how the floorboards creak in a slightly different rhythm, how the birdsong pauses for just a breath longer between phrases. The kind of change that begins in the quiet and carries weight. The lantern keeper had known it was coming. Not from a dream this time, not from a letter, just a slow gathering in the chest, a hush, a knowing. For days they had moved through the cottage with that quiet anticipation, the kind that folds around the bones, that threads itself into daily rituals and small tasks, folding linens, polishing lantern panes, turning a sampler over in one's hands, not because anything had changed, but because everything had. They rose early, before the kettle had begun to sing, before the whisper light had stirred. The house was still, and the mist curled gently against the window panes, as though reluctant to leave. They moved slowly, deliberately, gathering what had been waiting. The sampler folded carefully in soft cloth. The 5 letters, edges curled from reading and rereading. The rosemary braid, still fragrant despite its fading green. The notebook, stitched with green thread and now nearly full, its pages woven with symbols and sketches, verses and signs. The river stone, marked with a lantern and the shape of a song. And one last thing, a smooth, round pebble, pale as bone, carried home from the edge of the hollow weeks before and kept tucked beneath the hearth. The 12th. The satchel was light, but it carried something dense, not burden, not sorrow, just meaning. They stepped into the morning just as the dew caught fire in the first light. The air held the hush of early summer rain now past. Leaves glistened, the cobbles shimmered beneath their boots. Bees moved slowly through lavender, heavy with sleep and golden dust. Willowmere did not stir loudly, but it watched. Windows opened to sliver. A door creaked, then closed again. A kettle whistled in the distance, then stilled. The village knew something was being carried that morning. And it did not ask questions. It simply listened. The path to Lantern Hollow wound beneath the arms of tall ash and willow, the lane still soft from rain. Their boots left no sound, only the memory of sound, as though the earth had agreed to hold its breath for just a little while longer. Elder Night came into view slowly, her crown arching across the sky like a canopy of memory. Her great branches moved as they always had, not in greeting, but in witness. At her feet, the circle of lanterns waited. 12 iron posts rooted in stone and time. Their glass panes caught the sun faintly. None were lit, and yet none felt dark. The lantern keeper stepped through the circle's edge and paused. No one else was there. Not in body, but in silence, in rhythm, in memory. They were not alone. They moved to the center, where the slab of ancient stone lay worn smooth by decades of weather, footsteps, and watchfulness. Carefully, with both hands, they unfurled the cloth from the satchel and lifted the sampler into the morning. The stitches, once pale, now shimmered in the shifting light, rose gold and sage, silver and moss. The lantern sigil caught the sun and blinked faintly as if surprised to be seen again. They laid it on the stone, unfolded fully, pressed it flat, and stood back. The wind did not rise. The lanterns did not flicker, but something held. A tension, a fullness. The way a room holds still before a candle is lit. They didn't speak aloud, didn't need to. Their breath slowed, their hands lowered. And stillness wrapped around them like wool. Then, a shimmer above, not a flame, not a light, but a presence, a whisper light flickered into being. Soft and golden, it hovered above the sampler, spun once, then twice, and came to rest, just stayed, not bright, not loud, just sure. They watched for a long time, then slowly they knelt, removed the last pebble from their satchel, and placed it gently into the circle. A closing, 12 smooth stones, each from a place touched by memory, each now in its rightful place, each at a point in the ring. Together they formed a path, a quiet map, a promise. They did not stay long. There was no ceremony to conduct, no task to complete. Only the placement, the laying down, the act of letting rest. Before they rose, the wind shifted again, just slightly, and from a low-hanging branch of elder night's outermost limb, a ribbon braid loosened itself. It fell slowly, drifting, turning over in the air as if though considering the moment, and then it landed at the lantern keeper's feet. They bent and picked it up, faded green thread, an unfamiliar pattern. Unfinished at one end, waiting, they did not question its presence, only tucked it into the fold of their shawl, a beginning perhaps, or an invitation. That evening, in the cottage now tinged with the memory of river light and old thread, the lantern keeper moved slowly through their space, not cleaning, not preparing, just walking, acknowledging. They placed the sampler beneath a lantern, brought from Marin's doorstep, lit the wick with quiet fingers. It caught once. The flame was small, but steady. The light it cast was not dramatic, but it warmed the space like the scent of lavender in a winter drawer, like the echo of a song you didn't know you remembered. They sat beside it, watched it flicker, and said nothing. In the market green, Lisbeth tied her final braid of the day and paused. The thread hummed slightly between her fingers. She smiled, not at her work, but at the feeling it left behind. Old Wren, seated near the hearth, stirred 2 cups of tea. She sipped from one, left the other untouched, and said nothing about it. The child by the fountain traced her finger along the water's edge, humming a tune too old to know. And in Lantern Hollow, the sampler remained, stitched and seen. The whisper light hovered still, and the lanterns, though unlit, held a glow. Not a flame, not yet, but a readiness. Memory does not vanish. It weaves itself into song and thread, into stitch and stone and silence. And the light will always find its way back by the paths we leave behind. Well then, you can feel it, can't you? Not just the warmth of the flame, but the way it stays, even after the wick fades. You can, can't you? Even after the room goes quiet again. That's the thing about light. It doesn't always need to blaze. Sometimes it only needs to be remembered. So if you find yourself walking and the wind shifts and you feel like something's watching kindly from the corners, maybe it is. Maybe it's the hush before another story begins. And maybe you'll come back to hear it with me. Till then, tend your light and listen softly. Well then, you can feel it, can't you? Not just the warmth of the flame, but the way it stays. Even after the wick fades, even after the room goes quiet again. That's the thing about light. It doesn't always need to blaze. Sometimes it only needs to be remembered. So if you find yourself walking and the wind shifts, and you feel like something's watching kindly from the corners, maybe it is. Maybe it's the hush before another story begins. And maybe you'll come back to hear it with me. Till then, my friend, tend your light and listen softly.